So good morning everyone, welcome to the first of the seasonal outlooks for season 2018-19. So we'll go through a series of slides that will explain the current conditions. We will talk about what's coming for the spring and then what's coming for the summer, and then we'll compare it to the previous fire seasons so we can make assessment at this stage where our fire season is likely to end up. So if you look in the broader Australian context, there is quite significant rainfall deficit across the country, and if you look on this slide carefully, you will see that most of New South Wales and inland Queensland is in serious drought. This is really important because if we have a quite long protracted fire season this year, so will be the same situation in Queensland and in New South Wales, so we are unlikely to receive support from New South Wales over that period. Victorian landscape, so we had a significant rainfall deficit. If you start from the bottom map, very significant deficit over the last 6 months for the northern and eastern parts of Victoria. It's a similar picture when we're looking at 3 months, and the last month we had a reasonable rainfall through the southwest and the western parts of Victoria. Most of that was the factor of southern annular mode, which basically produced some rainfall in the western parts. It's important to have a look at the East Gippsland. It's still showing a quite significant rainfall deficiency in August. So if you look the Victorian landscape conditions, so the drought index and forest fire danger index, this is still the picture for July. We did have above average, quite significantly above average forest fire danger indices across Victoria. This graph will be updated later on this month, and we will share it in the next update. We can look at the similar picture through exploring the root zone soil moisture. Root zone soil moisture is the soil moisture in the first meter of the soil, and if you look this graph, you will see that quite significant rainfall deficiencies are occurring across north and east, and particular in the East Gippsland around the Orbost area, which is down to about lowest 1%. The only above average soil moisture is experienced in the western, southwest of Victoria, and also through the South Gippsland. If we hone into Orbost area, you will see that last year same time we had about 10% soil moisture, which this time it dropped to about 1%. And for people that noticed the fire that we had in that area in August this year, there was no surprises that the fire grew to about 850 hectares, and over that period, overnight, in a very low temperatures, about 8 degrees and 65% humidity, still produced a flame lengths of 3 to 5 meters, which was all driven by the dryness of the fuels. Looking at the spring predictions from the POAMA, we can see that indications are that spring will be reasonably dry throughout the September, October and November. However, the southern annual mode it's been positive, and that's where our rainfall occurred in August as a result of the same. It is quite likely that same will remain positive in the spring, so there is still potential to have a reasonable rainfalls, especially in the southwest of Victoria. When we look the longer range for the extreme days, and you just have to understand that we're talking here about the 90th percentile of the hot days, so the 90th percentile threshold for any given month. It doesn't mean that we will have a 40-degree days in September. It just means that we are likely to have a relatively hot days for those months. So it's still showing a very strong signal for October and November. However, the skill confidence of farmer looking for the next couple of months for the southern half of Victoria is reasonably low confidence. If you're looking beyond spring and climate outlook for the summer, it is quite likely now that El Niño conditions will set in from November, definitely in December. So last month, not all of the models, world models, were showing that El Niño will come in November period, or November, December. Now all of the world models are showing the same picture. When we look in the Indian Ocean dipole, which was the positive over the last couple of months, and it's got a significant influence on the rainfall events in Victoria. Now the models are showing that it is likely that IOD will remain neutral over the period of the summer. So it won't have such a strong impact on Victoria as it did in 1982 and 2006-07 when it coupled with the El Niño effect. When we look now the comparisons with the previous bad fire seasons, so the significant fire seasons that we had in Victoria, it is likely that this year we will be tracking somewhere in the conditions that we experienced in 2002-03. So as we know, at that time we had about 1.5 million hectares burnt in Victoria. I'm not saying that that's what will happen this year, but the drying conditions are very similar, and the onset of El Niño for the summer is pointing in similar conditions. So just to talk about some of the risk and issues, we know now that above average fire season in Victoria will be most likely experienced in the eastern regions. However, with the rainfall, now the rainfall forecast, which might eventuate in the northern parts of Victoria, it is likely that we will have a growth in those areas if the rain eventuates, which will then potentially put the northern Victoria as well in the above average threshold. We will monitor this situation and will provide the updates on a monthly basis. So you probably noticed in the news that in New South Wales there were a lot of fires in August, which was very early for New South Wales. That did receive some rainfall towards the mid to late August, but that wasn't a significant rain to have a massive impact on the overall dryness. And for the plant burning season, it is likely to commence early. However, dry conditions will increase the risk of the escapes, so all care needs to be taken in consideration when conducting plant burning this spring. We did have a consideration of the fire danger period to be declared earlier, and in East Gippsland the fire danger period starts on the 10th of September, which is the earliest on record. AFEC Bushfire Natural Hazard CRC issued a seasonal outlook for the southern states, and issued that last Thursday or yesterday, and it's showing that area from Traralgon East and the Thompson catchments towards east, and then going across the divide to Koryong area and linking into dry areas in south New South Wales, or southern New South Wales. So as I said before, this is the first one that was compiled in August. The conditions still might change in the spring, and this map will be updated in November. Thank you all for coming, and we will continue with these briefings on a monthly basis.